Hi there, and welcome to the first video in a new series that Pastor Jane and I are doing for the West Harford Cooperative Parish. It's a series of videos we're calling Book Talks, and in each of these short videos, Pastor Jane or I are going to offer to you one of our favorite books or a book that's been particularly influential on us for you to consider reading during this coronavirus emergency or maybe later on when you get a chance to go back to the library. So I'm going to start us off this week with one of my favorite books of all time. It's called The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis is well known as a popular writer from the mid-20th century, and The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is the first of his books that he wrote for a children's series called The Chronicles of Narnia. Lewis wrote a lot of books for adults, and I think some of them are fantastic, but this is definitely my favorite of all the books he ever has written. In fact, my mother read it to me when I was probably 5 or 6 years old, and I have read it every year since. And I've read it in some years 2 or 3 times, so I've probably read this book close to 100 times. I have almost every page memorized. I love this book. And even though it's a children's book, I've found that it grows with me as I grow older. So what I got from it when I was in elementary school is different from what I got from it in middle school or high school, as a college student, or what I get from it now when we read it to our children. In fact, right now, the Sunday school kids are reading this book together on Skype and in different ways with my wife, Libby. The story begins with 4 children who are on the run from the bombings in World War II in London and other populated areas. They end up in a country house and they stay with an odd professor, but the story doesn't really take place at the professor's house. Very quickly, the children find a passageway to a secret world called Narnia, and there they encounter perils as well as adventures and triumph in the end. It's really a delightful story, but for those of us who follow Jesus, it's also a kind of an allegory, a kind of a story with a hidden meaning. And it's not exactly a one-to-one meaning with something like Jesus's life, but in the story there is a very clear Jesus figure in the person of Aslan, who is a lion. And throughout the story, we get hints and pieces of what it means to follow this Aslan, what it means for this Aslan to be the ruler, the king even, and in a similar way, it helps us to think about what it means for Jesus to be our king. But even that's not exactly why I love this book. What I love most about this book is that it invites us to have what I've heard other people call a Christian imagination. That is, it helps me, and I think it helps others, to think about the world, not just in the strict terms of what's going on in the day-to-day news or in the things we see in the newspaper or our everyday lives, but in terms of something bigger, a story that is beyond just what can be captured easily in our journals or in our newspapers. And it also invites us to think about what it could be to freely think about following Jesus without the constraints of our usual lives. And I have found that when I read this book, I am strengthened in my real world determination to follow Jesus and to look for him in hidden places. Maybe not behind wardrobes, but in places where other people might overlook Jesus, where I myself might have overlooked Jesus in the past. So again, the book is The Chronicles of Narnia, Book 1, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis. I hope you'll check it out sometime, and if you do, leave me a comment or maybe send me an email or give me a call and we can talk about it. Thanks.